I always thought my life with Emily was a tapestry woven with trust, love, and shared dreams. We'd been married for 12 years. Our home in the suburbs a testament to our shared vision. White picket fence, a garden she tended with care, and a cozy living room where we'd laugh over old movies. I'm Daniel, a software engineer, content with the rhythm of our life. Emily, a graphic designer, filled our world with color. Her laughter a melody I thought would never fade. But lately, I'd noticed a subtle shift. She'd linger on her phone, her smiles guarded, her eyes darting away when I asked about her day. I chalked it up to stress. Her latest project was demanding, or so she said. Yet, the air in our home felt heavier, like a storm brewing just beyond the horizon. It was a Tuesday when the first crack appeared. I'd come home early, a rare treat, hoping to surprise her with dinner. Her car was in the driveway, but the house was eerily quiet. No hum of her working in her studio, no clatter of dishes. I found her in our bedroom, hurriedly closing her laptop, her face flushed. "You're home early," she said, her voice a touch too high. I smiled, brushing off the unease, but her eyes wouldn't meet mine. That night, as we ate in near silence, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was slipping through my fingers. I asked about her project. She mumbled vague answers, her fingers twisting her napkin. I told myself I was overthinking, but the seed of doubt had been planted. The next few weeks were a slow unraveling. Emily's late nights at work grew frequent, her excuses flimsier. She'd return with a faint scent of cologne, not mine, clinging to her jacket. I'd lie awake, her soft breathing beside me a cruel mockery of intimacy. I wanted to confront her, but fear held me back. What if I was wrong? What if I shattered our life over nothing? So I watched, my heart a battlefield of hope and dread. I started checking her phone when she showered, hating myself for it. No texts, no calls, her messages were suspiciously clean. But then, I found an email, buried in a folder labeled Work. A single line from someone named Jay. "Missed you last night. Same place tomorrow." My stomach churned. Jay. Who was Jay? I didn't sleep that night, the email burning behind my eyes. I didn't confront her, not yet. I needed proof, something undeniable. But the truth was creeping closer, and with it, a rage I hadn't known I could feel. The email haunted me, a ghost I couldn't banish. Jay. The letter echoed in my mind, a taunt. I knew I couldn't ignore it, but confronting Emily without evidence felt like stepping off a cliff. So, I became a detective in my own life, a role I despised. I started tracking her patterns. She'd leave for client meetings at odd hours, her makeup meticulous, her outfits sharper than her usual casual style. I'd nod, kiss her cheek, and watch her drive away, my chest tight with suspicion. I hated this version of myself, paranoid, obsessive, but the alternative was blindness, and I couldn't afford that. I installed a tracking app on her phone, justifying it as a temporary sin. The first night I used it, I sat in our dark living room, the blue glow of my laptop illuminating my shame. Her dot moved to a downtown hotel, not her office. She stayed there for 3 hours. I didn't sleep, my mind conjuring images I couldn't unsee. The next morning, she was all smiles, humming as she made coffee. I wanted to scream, to shake her and demand the truth, but I held back. I needed more. I started cross-referencing her work nights with the tracker. The hotel appeared again. Then a residential address. I drove there one evening, parking across the street from a sleek modern house. Her car was in the driveway. My hands shook as I gripped the steering wheel, the world narrowing to that moment. I didn't knock, couldn't. Instead, I waited, my breath shallow, until she emerged. A man followed her, tall, broad-shouldered, his hand grazing her back as they laughed. I recognized him. James, her old college friend, now a successful architect. They'd reconnected at a networking event months ago. She'd mentioned him casually, but never this. Never the late nights, the hotel, the intimacy in their laughter. I drove home, my vision blurred with tears and fury. That night, I lay beside her, her warmth a betrayal. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed a plan, something to make her feel the weight of what she'd done. Revenge was a word I hadn't considered before, but it was taking root, dark and unyielding. I started digging deeper. James was married, too. His wife, Laura, seemed unaware, her social media filled with family photos. I wondered if she felt the same unease I did, if she sensed the fracture in her world. I didn't contact her, not yet. Instead, I gathered evidence. Screenshots of the tracker, photos of Emily's car at James's house, even a receipt from the hotel I found in her purse. Each piece was a brick in the wall I was building, a fortress of proof. But with every discovery, my love for Emily withered, replaced by a cold, calculating anger. I wasn't just a husband anymore. I was a man wronged, and I would make them pay. Living with Emily became a performance. I smiled, kissed her goodnight, asked about her day, all while my heart was a furnace of rage. She didn't notice, or maybe she didn't care. Her lies grew bolder, her work excuses flimsier. She'd return from her outings with a glow I used to think was mine, her stories about clients laced with details that didn't add up. I played along, my voice steady, my face a mask, but inside I was planning. Revenge wasn't just an impulse now. It was a necessity, a way to reclaim the dignity she'd stolen. I started following her more often, discreetly. One night I tailed her to the hotel. I sat in the parking lot, watching as she and James entered, their hands brushing with a familiarity that made my stomach lurch. I didn't go in. Instead, I took photos time-stamped undeniable. Back home, I added them to my growing file, a digital vault of her betrayal. I also began researching James. His life was polished. Successful career, a wife who adored him, a daughter who looked like him. I found Laura's email through a mutual acquaintance and hesitated. Involving her could escalate things, but it could also be the key to my plan. I saved the email, not ready to pull that trigger. Emily's obliviousness fueled my resolve. She'd leave her phone unlocked, trusting I wouldn't check. I found more emails from James, brief but intimate, arranging meetups. One mentioned a weekend getaway they were planning. A getaway, while I sat at home, believing her lies about a work conference. The audacity of it sharpened my anger into something precise, surgical. I started thinking beyond confrontation. A simple argument wouldn't suffice. I wanted her to feel the humiliation I felt, to lose something as fundamental as I had. I wanted James to suffer, too, his perfect life cracked open. I began crafting a plan, one that required patience. I'd expose them, but not just to each other's spouses. I'd make it public, undeniable, a spectacle they couldn't escape. I contacted a private investigator, a discreet professional recommended by a colleague. I gave him everything: photos, emails, addresses. He promised more evidence. Recordings, perhaps, or clearer proof of their meetings. I didn't flinch at the cost. This was an investment in justice. As I waited for his reports, I kept up the charade at home. Emily noticed nothing, her laughter a blade in my chest. But I was patient. I had to be. The revenge I envisioned wasn't just cruel. It was meticulous. A slow burn that would leave them both reeling. I wasn't the man she married anymore. I was something else, something she'd created with her lies. The private investigator, a gruff man named Carl, delivered results faster than I expected. His first report was a gut punch. Audio recordings of Emily and James in a hotel room, their voices low, intimate, laced with laughter and promises. I listened alone in my car, parked in an empty lot, my hands trembling. Her voice, the one that used to soothe me, now spoke of a future with him. Weekends away, dreams she'd never shared with me. James's voice was smug, confident, as if he owned her. I stopped the recording, unable to stomach more. Carl also provided clearer photos. Them kissing in his car, her hand on his thigh. Each image was a nail in the coffin of our marriage. I didn't confront her. Not yet. My plan was evolving, growing sharper. I wanted their exposure to be public, permanent, a wound they couldn't heal. I started researching their social circles. Emily's colleagues admired her. James's firm revered him. Their reputations were pillars I intended to topple. I created anonymous social media accounts, careful to mask my identity. I didn't post anything, yet I was building a network, following their friends, their coworkers, even Laura's family. I wanted every angle covered when the time came. Laura was my next step. I emailed her from a burner account, vague but suggestive. You might want to look into your husband's late nights. He's been seen with someone. I attached a single photo, blurry but unmistakable. James and Emily at the hotel entrance. I didn't sign it. Let her stew, I thought. Let her doubt. I knew she'd confront him, and I wanted him rattled. Carl confirmed she'd hired him, too, unaware I was his other client. The web was tightening, and I was the spider at its center. At home, Emily's behavior grew erratic. She snapped at small things, her eyes darting to her phone constantly. I wondered if James had warned her about Laura's suspicions. Good. Let them squirm. I kept my routine steady, cooking dinner, asking about her day, my voice a perfect imitation of care. But I was cataloging her lies, each one fuel for my fire. I found a reservation confirmation in her purse for their getaway, a cabin in the mountains. I photographed it, added it to my file. I also hacked into her work calendar, confirming her conference was a lie. The betrayal was a living thing now, coiling around my heart, but it drove me. I wasn't just a victim, I was a reckoning. I met Carl again, this time to discuss the final phase. He suggested a public reveal, perhaps at James's firm's annual gala, where Emily was invited as a guest. The idea sparked something in me, a room full of their peers, their lies laid bare. I nodded, my mind already spinning. The gala was a month away. I had time to perfect this. Emily would come home soon, oblivious. I'd smile, kiss her, and wait. Revenge was close, and it would be merciless. The weeks before the gala were a test of endurance. Emily's lies grew sloppier, her excuses threadbare. She'd work late, but return with her hair slightly mussed, her lipstick faded. I noticed everything, cataloging it in silence. The tracker showed her at James's house more often, their getaway plans confirmed by texts I found on her phone. She thought she was clever, deleting messages, but I'd installed a recovery app. Each recovered text was a shard of glass, cutting deeper, but I welcomed the pain. It fueled my resolve. I finalized my plan with Carl. He'd gathered more video footage of them in the hotel lobby, their hands entwined, oblivious to the world. He also had Laura's cooperation. She was furious, her own investigation confirming James's betrayal. She didn't know about me, but Carl ensured our goals aligned. The gala would be the stage. I'd expose them there, not with a confrontation, but with evidence projected for all to see. Photos, texts, recordings. I'd rented a projector, arranged for an anonymous technical glitch during James's speech. The firm's elite, Emily's colleagues, their friends, they'd all witness their fall. I contacted the gala's organizers through my anonymous account, posing as a vendor offering a surprise tribute for James. They bought it, eager for a spectacle. I prepared a file, a slideshow of their affair, synced to the audio of their hotel conversation. I added captions, dates, locations, proof of their lies. It was devastating, unassailable. Laura agreed to distract James during the presentation, ensuring he couldn't stop it. I didn't care if she suspected me. She wanted her own revenge, and I was happy to let her think she was in control. At home, Emily was a ghost of herself. She sensed something. Maybe Laura's confrontation with James had rippled back. She asked me once, her voice small, if I was happy. I looked into her eyes, the ones I'd loved for years, and lied. Of course, I said, my smile ablaze. She relaxed, but I saw the guilt flicker in her gaze. She thought she was safe. She wasn't. I stopped sleeping beside her, claiming work stress. I couldn't bear her touch, her warmth a mockery of what we'd had. I worked late in my study, refining the plan, imagining their faces when the truth hit. The gala was a week away. I bought a suit, practiced my expression. Shocked, betrayed, the perfect victim. I'd be there watching as their world collapsed. Emily would lose her reputation, her career. James would lose his firm's respect, maybe his family. I didn't feel joy, only a grim satisfaction. This wasn't love anymore. It was justice. As I polished my shoes, Emily called from the kitchen, her voice bright. Fake. Dinner's ready. I went to her, my heart a stone. The storm was coming, and I was its architect. The week before the gala was a blur of meticulous planning and suppressed rage. Every detail had to be perfect. There could be no mistakes. I met Carl one last time in a dimly lit diner, far from our suburb. He handed me a USB drive containing the final version of the slideshow. A devastating montage of Emily and James's affair, complete with timestamps, locations, and snippets of their intimate conversations. The audio was particularly damning, her laughter, his murmurs of affection, promises of a life they'd never have. Carl had added a final touch. A slow zoom on their faces in the hotel lobby, their smiles oblivious to the wreckage they'd caused. I tested it on my laptop, my jaw tight. It was perfect, a guillotine in digital form. I coordinated with the gala's tech team through my anonymous vendor persona, ensuring the projector would malfunction at the right moment. They were eager, unsuspecting, thrilled by the idea of a surprise tribute for James. I also confirmed Laura's role. She'd keep James occupied during his speech, maybe with a pointed question about his late nights. She didn't know the full extent of my plan, but her anger matched mine. I could feel the web tightening, every thread pulling Emily and James toward their reckoning. I didn't feel guilt, only a cold certainty. They'd chosen this path. I was merely lighting it up. At home, Emily was unraveling. She'd snap over small things. A misplaced mug, a delayed response, then apologize with a brittle smile. Her phone was glued to her hand, her eyes darting to it constantly. I wondered if James had warned her about Laura's suspicions, if they were scrambling to cover their tracks. I played my part flawlessly, asking about her day, offering to run errands, my voice warm with feigned affection. She didn't suspect me, but her guilt was palpable, a shadow in her gaze. I found a new email from James, hastily written, "We need to be careful. Elle is asking questions." I smiled, deleting it from her trash folder. Let them panic. It wouldn't save them. I prepared my own role for the gala. I'd be the shocked husband, betrayed in front of everyone. I practiced my reaction in the mirror. Wide eyes, clenched jaw, a man blindsided by his wife's deceit. It wasn't hard. The pain was real, even if I'd weaponized it. I packed the USB in a small case, hid it in my briefcase, and counted the days. Emily mentioned the gala casually, saying she was excited to network. I nodded, my stomach twisting. She had no idea what awaited her. As I lay awake that night, her soft breathing beside me, I felt the weight of what I was about to do. Not revenge, I told myself. Justice. But the line was blurring, and I didn't care. The night of the gala arrived, crisp and clear, the stars mocking the storm I was about to unleash. I stood in our bedroom, adjusting my tie, while Emily slipped into a sleek black dress. She looked beautiful, radiant, and I hated her for it. "You look nice," I said, my voice steady, and she smiled, oblivious to the irony. We drove to the venue in silence, her perfume filling the car, a scent that once comforted me, now a bitter reminder of her betrayal. The gala was at a downtown hotel, its ballroom glittering with chandeliers and the hum of self-important chatter. James's firm had spared no expense, and the room buzzed with architects, clients, and Emily's design colleagues, perfect witnesses for what was coming. We mingled, my arm around Emily's waist, a performance for the crowd. She introduced me to people I'd never met, her laugh a little too bright, her eyes scanning the room. I spotted James across the ballroom, his suit tailored, his smile confident. Laura was at his side, her expression tight, her gaze sharp. I nodded at her discreetly, a silent acknowledgement of our shared purpose. She didn't know I was the architect of this, but she'd play her part. I excused myself to check on something, slipping into the tech booth. The USB was in my pocket, a small weight with catastrophic power. The tech guy, a bored 20-something, accepted my story about a last-minute addition to James's presentation. I handed over the drive, my heart pounding but my hands steady. Back in the ballroom, I rejoined Emily, my smile a mask. The program began, speeches, awards, polite applause. James took the stage, his voice smooth, touting his firm's successes. I felt Emily tense beside me, her hand gripping her glass. Laura stood near the stage, her eyes locked on James. Then it happened. The projector flickered, James's slides replaced by the first image. Him and Emily, kissing in his car. Gasps rippled through the room. The audio kicked in, her voice, soft, promising him a weekend away. The crowd froze, eyes darting to Emily, to James, to me. I played my part, my face a portrait of shock, my hand pulling away from her. Emily's glass slipped, shattering on the floor. James stammered, his face pale, but the slideshow continued, relentless. Photos, texts, proof of their lies. Laura's voice cut through, sharp, accusing James. The room erupted in whispers, phones raised to record the chaos. Emily turned to me, her eyes wide, pleading. Daniel, I shook my head, stepping back, letting the crowd's judgment swallow her. James was mobbed by colleagues, Laura's shouts drowning his excuses. I slipped out, my heart a furnace of grim satisfaction. The first blow had landed, but this was only the beginning. They'd feel the full weight of my revenge soon enough. The gala's fallout was immediate and brutal. By the time we left, Emily was a ghost of herself, her face ashen, her hands trembling. She tried to speak in the car, her voice a broken whisper. Daniel, please, let me explain. I didn't respond, my eyes fixed on the road. The slideshow's images burned into my mind. She'd humiliated me, but now the world knew her shame. Social media was already ablaze. Clips of the presentation, hashtags branding her and James as liars, cheaters, homewreckers. I'd checked my anonymous accounts before we left. The posts I'd seeded were spreading, fueled by the gala's attendees. Emily's colleagues, James's clients, they were all talking, judging, condemning. At home, she followed me inside, her sobs filling the silence. It wasn't supposed to be like this, she said, collapsing onto the couch. I stood over her, my voice cold. What was it supposed to be, Emily? A secret you'd keep forever. She flinched, her excuses incoherent. Stress, loneliness, James's charm. I didn't care. Her words were ash, meaningless. I told her to sleep in the guest room. She didn't argue, her footsteps heavy as she retreated. I sat in my study, the house dark, and checked my phone. Laura had posted publicly a scathing letter about James's betrayal, tagging his firm. His reputation was crumbling, clients pulling out, his partners distancing themselves. Emily's design firm had already emailed her a curt request for a meeting. Her career was teetering. I wasn't done. The gala was the public strike, but I wanted something personal, a wound only they'd feel. I'd kept one piece of evidence from the slideshow, a video Carl had captured, more intimate than the rest, filmed through a hotel window. It was raw, undeniable, a moment they thought was private. I considered sending it to Laura, to Emily's parents, but that felt too small. Instead, I planned to use it later, a dagger held in reserve. For now, I let the public shaming do its work. I emailed Carl, thanking him, and asked for one last task: track James's next moves. If he tried to salvage his life, I'd be ready to strike again. Sleep eluded me. I sat in the living room, the silence oppressive. Emily's betrayal wasn't just a personal wound. It was a theft of the life I'd built, the trust I'd given. But I wasn't powerless anymore. I'd taken control, and the power was intoxicating. As dawn broke, I heard her moving upstairs, packing a bag. She was leaving, maybe to a friend's, maybe to James. I didn't care. Let her run. There was nowhere she could go that my revenge wouldn't find her. The game wasn't over, it was just beginning, and I was playing to win. Emily left the next morning, her suitcase packed, her eyes red from crying. She stood in the doorway, hesitating, as if expecting me to stop her. "I'm sorry, Daniel," she whispered, her voice barely audible. I didn't respond. my silence a wall between us. She drove away, and I felt nothing. No grief, no relief, only the cold certainty of my next steps. I checked her tracker, a habit now, and saw her head to a friend's house, not James's. Good. Let her think she could hide. I had other plans, ones that didn't require her presence. James's life was imploding faster than I'd expected. Carl's updates were relentless. James's firm had suspended him pending an investigation, citing reputational damage. Laura had kicked him out, and he was crashing at a colleague's apartment, his daughter refusing to speak to him. Social media was merciless. Memes, threads, even a parody account mocking their affair. I didn't post myself, but I amplified the chaos through my anonymous accounts, liking, sharing, ensuring the story stayed alive. Emily wasn't spared. Her firm had fired her, citing a breach of professional conduct after clients complained. Her portfolio, once celebrated, was now tainted by her scandal. I met Laura for coffee, posing as a sympathetic stranger who'd seen the gala footage online. She was raw, her anger a mirror of mine. I trusted him, she said, her voice shaking. And her, Emily, she was at our house for dinner last year. I nodded, feigning shock, and gently prodded for details. Laura revealed James's desperation to fix things. His pleas to meet Emily and sort it out. I filed that away. If they met, I'd know and I'd use it. I didn't tell Laura about my role. She didn't need to know. But I left her with a seed of doubt about James's remorse, suggesting he might still be lying. She thanked me, unaware she was a pawn in my game. Back home, the house felt like a museum of our failed marriage. Emily's plants were wilting, her art still on the walls. I didn't touch them. They'd stay until I was ready to erase her completely. I focused on my next move: financial ruin. Emily and James had been careless, using joint accounts for their hotel stays. I hired a lawyer, a shark who specialized in divorce. We froze our accounts, ensuring Emily had no access. I also tipped off James's firm about his misuse of company funds for their getaways. Another nail in his coffin. Every step was calculated, a brick in the prison I was building around them. As I sat in my study, the video file on my laptop, I wondered how far I'd go. The answer was simple: as far as it took. A week after the gala, Carl called with news. Emily and James were meeting at a secluded cafe, desperate to regroup. I drove there, parking out of sight, my camera ready. They sat outside, their faces drawn, arguing in hushed tones. Emily's hands gestured wildly. James looked defeated, his charm gone. I snapped photos, then sent them to Laura from my burner account, adding a note: "He's still seeing her." I knew she'd act, and she did. Within hours, Laura posted the photos online, reigniting the scandal. The cafe meeting became proof of their shamelessness, the public's outrage flaring anew. I decided it was time for the video. I edited it carefully, blurring just enough to avoid legal trouble but leaving their faces clear. I uploaded it to a niche site, one known for exposing scandals, and shared the link through my anonymous accounts. By morning, it had spread. Blogs, forums, even a local news outlet picked it up, calling it the affair that won't quit. Emily's parents called me, horrified, begging for answers. I played the victim, my voice heavy with fake grief, and let them assume she'd brought this on herself. James's daughter, I heard, left him a voicemail disowning him. Their worlds were shrinking, their shame a cage I'd built. I filed for divorce, my lawyer ensuring Emily got nothing. The evidence of her affair made it airtight. She'd walk away with only her clothes and her ruined reputation. James faced similar ruin. His firm fired him, and Laura's lawyer was bleeding him dry. I didn't stop there. I tipped off the IRS about James's shady deductions, a detail Carl had uncovered. If he thought he'd hit rock bottom, he was wrong. I wanted them to feel this for years, to wake every day knowing I'd dismantled their lives. As I sat in my empty house, the victory felt hollow. I'd won, but at what cost? My love for Emily was gone, replaced by a void. Yet I didn't regret it. They'd betrayed me, and I'd made them pay. I poured a drink, the silence heavy, and checked my phone. Another post, another headline, their names forever tied to shame. I leaned back, the weight of my revenge settling around me. It was done, but I'd never be the man I was. Neither would they. And that, I thought, was justice. The weeks following the video's release were a masterclass in destruction. Emily and James's lives unraveled faster than I could have dreamed. Each new headline a testament to my precision. I sat in my study, the house a hollow shell, scrolling through the fallout on my laptop. Emily had vanished from her friend's house, her tracker showing her at a cheap motel on the edge of town. I pictured her there, alone, staring at the peeling wallpaper, her career and reputation in ashes. James wasn't faring better. Carl reported he'd been evicted from his colleague's apartment, now couch-surfing with a distant cousin. His once polished life reduced to a duffel bag and a cracked phone screen. Laura had filed for divorce, her social media a shrine to her righteous fury, each post a dagger in James's heart. I didn't rest on my laurels. Revenge, I'd learned, was a living thing demanding constant tending. I'd already crippled them socially and financially, but I wanted their futures tainted, their every step shadowed by their shame. I contacted a former colleague of Emily's, posing as a concerned client, and accidentally shared a link to the video. Word spread among her professional network. Her name became toxic, her portfolio untouchable. James faced similar exile. His firm's clients, spooked by the scandal, blacklisted him, and Carl uncovered whispers of a lawsuit from a former partner, claiming James's actions had tanked their reputation. I didn't start the lawsuit, but I fanned the flames, leaking details to a local business blog through my anonymous accounts. Emily tried to reach me once, a voicemail left in the dead of night. Her voice was fragile, broken. "Daniel, I know I hurt you. I'm so sorry. Can we talk?" I deleted it without responding. Sorry was a word too small for what she'd done. A bandage on a severed limb. I didn't want her apologies. I wanted her to live with the consequences. James, too, tried to salvage something, sending a pathetic email to Laura, begging for a chance to explain. She forwarded it to me, unaware of my role, and I saw the desperation in his words. He was a man drowning, and I was the one who'd pushed him under. I met my lawyer again, finalizing the divorce papers. Emily would get nothing. Not the house, not our savings, not even the car she loved. The affair's evidence ensured the judge's sympathy lay with me. I also learned James's financial ruin was nearly complete. The IRS audit I'd triggered had uncovered years of dubious deductions, and he faced crippling penalties. As I signed the papers, I felt a flicker of something, triumph, perhaps, but it was fleeting. The man I'd been was gone, replaced by someone harder, colder. I didn't mourn him. He'd been weak, trusting. This new Daniel was a survivor, and survivors didn't forgive. Just when I thought my revenge was complete, a new opportunity presented itself. Carl called with a tip. Emily had applied for a low-level design job in a neighboring city, using a pseudonym to escape her tainted name. She was trying to rebuild, to slip through the cracks of her disgrace. The audacity of it reignited my anger. Did she think she could outrun what she'd done? I dug into the company, a small firm unaware of her past. Posing as a concerned industry insider, I emailed the hiring manager, attaching links to the gala footage and the video. I didn't need to say much. The evidence spoke for itself. Within days, Carl confirmed she'd been rejected, her alias exposed. She was back at the motel, her hope snuffed out. James, too, was clawing for a lifeline. He'd pitched a freelance project to an old client, a desperate bid to stay afloat. Couldn't let that stand. I contacted the client through a burner email, hinting at James's unreliable behavior and linking to the scandal's coverage. The client dropped him, and Carl reported James had been seen at a bar, drowning his sorrows, his face gaunt. I felt no pity. They'd built their own prisons. I was merely locking the doors. But there was an unexpected ripple. Laura reached out asking to meet. I agreed, curious. Over coffee, she was different. Less angry, more reflective. "I've been thinking about who did this," she said, her eyes searching mine. The gala, the video, it was too perfect, too planned. My pulse quickened, but I kept my face neutral, feigning confusion. She didn't accuse me, but her suspicion was clear. Whoever it was, she continued, they wanted blood. I nodded, murmuring something about justice. Inside, I was rattled. Laura was closer to the truth than I'd anticipated. I'd need to be more careful, my tracks better covered. That night, I reviewed my actions, ensuring no loose ends. My anonymous accounts were untraceable. My burner emails deleted. Carl sworn to secrecy. Still, Laura's words lingered. I'd planned for Emily and James's destruction, but not for others questioning the architect behind it. I pushed the unease aside. The plan was working. Their lives were rubble. If Laura suspected me, she had no proof. I poured a whiskey, the house silent, and toasted to my victory. But as I drank, a small voice whispered, how far was too far? I ignored it. Revenge was my compass now, and I wasn't done steering. Months passed, and the world moved on. But Emily and James remained trapped in the wreckage I'd engineered. Emily had left the motel, moving to a rundown apartment in a city 2 hours away. Carl tracked her there, reporting she worked a dead-end retail job, her design dreams abandoned. Her social media was gone, her name a ghost in the industry. James was worse off, living in a cheap rental, his architecture career dead. The IRS penalties had bankrupted him, and Laura's divorce settlement left him with nothing but debt. His daughter still refused to see him, her absence a wound he couldn't heal. I should have felt satisfied, but the void in me grew. The house, once our home, was a mausoleum of memories I couldn't escape. Emily's plants were dead, her art packed away, yet her presence lingered, a specter of betrayal. I sold the house, moving to a stark apartment downtown, hoping distance would quiet the ghosts. Didn't. My days were mechanical: work, gym, sleep. My nights haunted by the man I'd become. Friends noticed the change, their invitations dwindling as I grew distant, consumed by my vendetta. I didn't care. Connection felt like a luxury I no longer deserved. Laura contacted me again, her tone sharper. She'd hired a private investigator of her own, sniffing around the gala's anonymous vendor. She didn't name me, but her questions were pointed. Had I noticed anything odd before the slideshow? Did I know anyone with a grudge? I deflected, my voice calm, but my heart raced. She was digging, and Carl warned she'd questioned him too. He'd stayed loyal, but the pressure was mounting. I doubled his fee, ensuring his silence, and scrubbed my digital footprint again. The fear of exposure was new, a crack in my armor. I'd built a perfect revenge, but its foundation was fragile, built on lies and shadows. I visited Emily's old firm, posing as a client, and learned she tried to contact them, begging for a second chance. They'd laughed, her name a punchline. I smiled, but it felt forced. The thrill of her suffering was fading, replaced by a gnawing question. What now? I destroyed them, but my own life was a casualty. I'd won, but at what cost? I pushed the thought away, focusing on the next step. Rumors swirled that James was planning to leave the state, start over. Couldn't allow that. I'd find a way to keep him tethered to his shame, to ensure neither of them escaped. Revenge was all I had left, and I clung to it like a lifeline. Carl's latest report brought a twist. Emily and James had met again, a clandestine reunion at a park in her new city. They weren't rekindling their affair. Carl's photos showed them arguing, Emily's face tear-streaked, James's hands raised in frustration. They were broken, clinging to each other not out of love but desperation. Two drowning souls grasping at straws. I stared at the photos, my anger flaring anew. They didn't deserve solace, not even in their shared ruin. I needed to sever this last thread, to ensure they faced their consequences alone. I crafted a new plan, smaller but surgical. I sent the park photos to Laura, anonymously, with a note. They're still meeting. Thought you should know. Laura's response was swift, a furious post online, accusing James of manipulating her even now. The post went viral, reigniting public scorn. Emily's new co-workers saw it, and Carl reported she'd been fired from her retail job, her manager citing drama. James faced similar backlash. His cousin kicked him out, tired of the scandal's shadow. They were isolated now, their last connection poisoned by my hand. But Laura's investigation was closing in. She traced the gala's text setup to a payment from an unlisted account. Mine. Though she didn't know it yet. Carl warned me she'd hired a forensic accountant, sniffing for digital breadcrumbs. I panicked briefly, then acted. I transferred my remaining funds to an offshore account, wiped my laptop, and burned my burner phones. Carl agreed to disappear, his fee a small fortune. I was covering my tracks, but the noose was tightening. I considered confronting Laura, spinning a story to throw her off, but that risked exposure. Instead, I laid low, my apartment a fortress of solitude. I dreamed of Emily that night, her face as it was years ago, soft with love. I woke in a cold sweat, the memory a betrayal of my resolve. I didn't love her anymore, but I missed the man who did. Revenge had consumed me, leaving nothing but ashes. Yet I couldn't stop. James had applied for a construction job, a last-ditch effort to survive. I emailed the employer anonymously with links to his scandal. The job vanished. Emily, too, was trying to freelance, but I ensured her clients found the video. Their every attempt to rise was met with my hand, pushing them back down. I was relentless, but the cost was clear. I was as trapped as they were, bound to this cycle of vengeance. A year after the gala, I stood at a crossroads. Emily was a shadow, living in a shared apartment, working odd jobs, her spirit crushed. James was worse, a drifter now, his name synonymous with failure. Their affair was old news, but its scars were permanent, their lives a testament to my wrath. I'd succeeded beyond my wildest dreams, yet the victory was hollow. My apartment was barren, my social life non-existent, my work a rote distraction. I destroyed them, but I'd also destroyed myself, a casualty of my own war. Laura's investigation had stalled, her accountant finding nothing concrete. I was safe for now, but the fear lingered. I'd built a cage of secrets, and I was its prisoner. I visited our old house one last time, now owned by a young couple. Their laughter echoed as they tended the garden Emily had loved. I stood across the street, a stranger to my own past, and felt the weight of what I'd lost. Not just Emily, but the man who'd believed in love, in trust. He was gone, replaced by a specter driven by rage. I considered stopping, letting Emily and James fade into their misery. But the thought of their freedom, however small, was unbearable. I sent one last anonymous tip, linking James's new alias to his past, ensuring his latest job prospect vanished. Emily, too, faced a fresh wave of online scorn after I leaked her new email to a gossip forum. They'd never escape, not fully. Neither would I. I returned to my apartment, the city lights cold outside my window, and opened my laptop. A new email from Carl, offering to track them again. I hesitated, my finger hovering over the reply button. Revenge was all I had, but it was also all I was. I closed the laptop, the silence deafening, and stared into the darkness. The mirror of truth was cruel, and I couldn't look away.